everybody, and welcome to another episode of Single in the City. I am your host, Genesis Moore, and I also have my lovely co host here coming in, Miss T.R. Berry. And
Good evening, everyone. Genesis, how we feeling tonight?
we got a lot to talk about. My friends, my homegirls, they've been watching. And they got a lot more questions these days. So we'll get into that. But first and foremost, for everybody at home, we want to say thank you for participating in everything for Single in the City. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for adding us and giving your asking for a friend suggestions as well, because we all know it's so much to talk about when we're talking about being single in the city. So thank you guys for participating and rocking with us this long. Like, we just two girls out here trying to make it, trying to make our little lives matter.
Trying.
Yeah. So in that, I've been talking to my friends and my guy friends, my girlfriends and my guy friends over the past week. And the topic of marriage keeps coming up. It's almost like you don't want to, like a rat race. You don't want to be too old, but you don't want to be too young, but you don't want to be in the streets, feel like you're missing anything. You don't want to have the fear of missing out. So it's a lot going on. So my homegirl texted me and she asked me, why do you think these men don't want to get married? Are they scared of us? I'm just asking my friend, like, what's tea?
That's a really good question. A question that I don't have the answer to because I'm not inside men's head. We might have another voice coming on later that can give us their perspective. But what I'm thinking is, I think about the Bible verse. Is it what he that finds a wife finds a good thing? I feel like we lost that got lost in the sauce somewhere, and it was like, she who finds a good man hit the lottery is the remix to that Bible verse. And
Or is she that goes all out of her way?
There's a lot of factors that, societal factors that have, things to do with it, just in the scarcity, a lot of entities that have made, for every man is like 16 eligible women who will be interested in him. So when you have
Tell me that's just an Atlanta statistic. That's not a world statistic, right? That's just
it might be in Atlanta, but since we ain't single in this city of ATL, that's the reality.
We're gonna talk about it here.
So yeah, I think that it's hard because what's rare is valuable. What you can't get a lot of is what people find to be the best thing that you can have. Of course, there's watches, but it's a certain kind of watch, like your Audemars or your Rolexes, that, okay, it's not a lot of these, so we gonna jump the price up. It's a lot of cars, but it's not a lot of Bentleys, it's not a lot of Rolls Royces. So
yeah,
when you have to factor in the value of men as being in accordance with how many eligible bachelorettes there are out there, it makes it harder for women to find a quote unquote good one. It's not that they're not out there, it's just it's a lot more amazing, beautiful, smart, educated, money hustling, faith-based to balance that out. So when something that's not as much, that has gotten scarce, becomes more valuable, it's more so like, is it because we have too many amazing women available that now the value of women as a whole has, I don't like to say going down because I don't speak that kind of language, but it's something going on there.
Well, I don't think it's that. I think it's more so of a men, yes, they do have more options, right? And that's just inevitable, because when you think about things, especially if you're talking about a certain demographic, of if you only date black men, then your pool is a lot smaller than if you open yourself up to different races. Your pool is a lot smaller if you only say, I only date men that are my age, as opposed to someone older,
My
someone
height.
younger, or my height, or they got to make, $1 million a year. You start weeding yourself out of different pools. And I think a lot of women don't take that into consideration, especially when it comes to finding someone that is right for them. Like it's a lot of factors that go into finding somebody that is right for you, or when that person comes along, as for a woman, understanding and being able to look and say, this man here is a great man for me, and
Yeah.
because of this and this. And I think a lot of people these days have fickle metrics on what they measure a person by. You can't just measure a person by how they look, how tall they are, how much money they got. Like it's so much more than that. You know, it's so many character
How they
things
mama
that go
act,
in
you
there.
know? Do they
Right.
got daddy issues?
It's
It's a
so
lot.
many that go unaccounted for.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but I think as far as the men are concerned, hey, and I don't at me in the comments of this week, okay? But I think a lot of the men, they know they have options, so they play those options up to the best of their abilities, and they just keep going. They don't even
Yeah.
stop to think, this is a good woman. Let me try to see if let me try to measure her by these qualifications of a wife. It almost becomes like which one of y'all gonna do more for me and make me feel the most comfortable in my life? And which one of y'all gonna jump through all my ridiculous hoops, and
Yeah.
whoever gets
Makes
to the finish
sense.
line wins?
Now let me ask you this. So how do you feel about maturity levels in terms of age? Because a lot of times my dad told me that he got married too young, and I think he was
Mhm.
25 when my parents got married, and he says that he regrets getting married that young. But I feel like according to standards of society, young girls are taught to aspire to marriage from a very young age. Like, oh, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
wedding and you're gonna be beautiful in your dress and you're gonna be they don't look at young boys to say, they're like, oh, you gonna be a heartbreaker, you little baby face with your good skin, da, 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 da. And they say that to 3-year-olds. And
Uh-huh.
it's like they teach girls to kind of get in the idea of being a wife, being sought after in that way, and they kind of allow for young boys to kind of have their pick. And I feel like that's very young, um to start that
Very.
type of ideology in kids. So as for my dad to then say to me, I got married too young at 25, but I'm looking at 25 like, okay, if I'm not married by then okay, do I have to start thinking about how many eggs I'm gonna have left? So if I have children, if I want 3 kids, and do I
Not
need
at
to
25.
wanting to freeze my eggs so I weigh, by the time I'm 28, 29, so I'm not knocking at 35, like where my kids at, and I can't, produce any on my own. There's the things that women think about, which forces us not only
Yeah.
from society, not only from movies, our internal, I don't want to say issues, but our internal thoughts that have us thinking that the younger that we step into marriage, the better. But for some reason, men tend to think that if they get into it in their 20s, they did it too young and they're missing out, or like you said, that fear of missing out. So what do you think about that?
Agreed. And I think it just kind of gets to be a little bit unfair. Uh, but it is just the way nature works. It's like a man could be 40 and get a
Yeah.
25-year-old
And
and
be
live happily ever after. But as a woman, we don't have that option. We don't have as many options, especially when it comes to time. Our timing has to be aligned with our literally our bodies
mm-hmm.
biologically. So and men don't really have that weight on them. So I think that in turn causes women. I've seen a lot of women when they were 25 be like, I would never take that from a guy. I would never, he can never talk to me. They hit 28, 29, and it don't sound so crazy no more because they're thinking, well, if I gotta dumb myself down, or if I have to dim my light a little bit, if I have to like, give in this area, maybe I am too aggressive now. Maybe I shouldn't be talking and speaking my mind all the time. Maybe, I should be into more of what Kevin Samuels is saying, and my divine femininity and all this stuff, or whatever it takes to attract a man. And those same type of demands are not put on men. The older they get, it's almost like they're seen as, the better you get, the more established you are, the more money you have, and if you get a belly and a bald head, it's fine. Nobody cares about that. You got money. You could always, somebody's going to love you either way. But women, we're taught the older we get, the more our value decreases.
Coming down the mountain. That's what they say. You go up a mountain and then you start coming down a mountain.
And then if you still have like a certain amount of confidence as a 25-year-old and you're like a 33-year-old woman, people are looking at you like, oh, she's unrealistic. I've heard people say that about women. I'm like, that girl she is somebody. She should not be settling.
And they tend to ask men, it's the language for me. Like, when are you going to settle down? And a girl like, you ain't married yet? Why is it he gets to decide when he wants to settle down with anybody?
Oh,
he can just walk outside and say, hooty hoo, come get with me. And a girl is like, girl, you ain't dating nobody. You not. What's going on?
You don't have a boyfriend?
What happened with so and so? That ain't. Oh, you was with him for years. What?
And then look, this be my favorite. The older ladies be like, I'm gonna have to take you to class because it's got to be something you're doing wrong.
Oh yeah, of course.
Or why you don't have a man.
Or they want to introduce you to their grandson to this and that, and then he come around the corner and don't look nothing like. Anyway, that's another story.
A child of God.
Don't look nothing like what was on the list. But like you said, sometimes expectations do have to be managed in a way, but I find it unfair because I personally believe that what God has for you, who God has for you, and the season God has it to be is going to be who you're supposed to be with and how you're supposed to be with them yourself. And I don't mind being single and I don't even like the term wait, because waiting means that I'm practicing a patience or I'm like waiting for someone to get there. I'm just here vibing, not waiting, but I'm just here and I feel whole within myself. And I wish that we would approach dating in the same way in marriage for young girls as we approach it for young men, because you never hear somebody say for a young guy, oh, you waiting on your soulmate to come around and she gonna find you. Nobody says that to them. I've never heard that.
Well, and it's just the stigma of being I think as a young woman, I don't think I would have been a good wife at 23. Not like how I feel like I would be at 30, hopefully whenever I get to 30, I'll feel like that. But, I just think there were certain things I had to learn about myself, learn about the world, learn about just how to do realistic household things, how to even how I like my space, how I like my morning routine, how to pay bills, how to, be responsible for my dog, or, something like that. So I think all that being said, people don't take that into account, that there's a certain maturation that has to happen in a woman as well in order to be ready to blend lives with someone else. But it's like we're not offered that same amount of grace to mature and grow into who we're supposed to be. It's like, you didn't just come out that way. Like, you ain't been in school your whole life. How you don't know how to do this? You're not domestic, Right. So it's just that constant stigma.
Yeah, I cook and my grandma be like, oh, you cooked them. You gonna make a good wife. So I don't have to eat. So I'm just in front with pots and pans and pouring oil and grease popping everywhere so he can eat? No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna myself so that my cup can spill over into a marriage or this or that, but I'm gonna be good on my own, and I'm gonna make sure it tastes how I want it to taste. Because he could come in and be like, "Oh, you make it too salty," and I'm like, "Nope, he ain't the one." So no, I'm not cooking for a man. And yes, I'll make a good wife one day, but I don't cook how I like to cook and add adobo and everything else, Mrs. Dash and Laurie's, and he might be like, "I don't do that salt." That's gonna be, I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but I'm just saying I do things how I want to do it in my space. And when someone approaches you saying, "Oh, you do this good, it'll be really great when you do this in marriage or as a mom or as this," and it's like, that was
even in that, it's like compromises have to be made. Like, even though I like my eggs salty, when I'm making them for us, I'll put my salt on the side, or I'll make you another type of, certain things that you can do in order. But that comes with growth and maturity on understanding yourself and where you're willing to compromise and where you're not. And sometimes if you let somebody come into your life too early, too soon, with too much influence, you'll start bending ways that you weren't even meant to bend. And then you start stunting your growth as a person.
Today, we're going to be making some key lime cupcakes.
The Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you!
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jermaine Dolly, Mr. Hello Dolly himself, and guess what? You're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my homies, Mignon and Corey. Keep it out, y'all.
Hey, y'all, it's Candy West, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey.
It's your boy James Fortune, and you are watching my favorite news show, Tea and Worship, with my sis Mignon and Corey.
Girl, I think we didn't beat up on these men long enough. Let's bring in one so we could talk to him and see what he has to say. Why y'all don't want to marry us? Everybody, please welcome, speaking for all men, Justin Gilbert. You can introduce yourself, but you're a great person. You got a lot of, great ideas, and that's why we wanted somebody, a very sound man, that understands through different perspectives. So we're just saying, you're not speaking for all men, but why y'all don't want to get married?
Right, that's no pressure at all. Just first of all, but that's a very that question has to be nuanced because there are so many reasons not to. There are a lot of reasons. There are some benefits. It really depends on an individual's why for getting married.
Okay.
Do you feel like as a child you were raised to aspire to marriage?
I think I was just coming up in a Christian home. That's one of the basic, tenets and ideas about how to build a family and all of this other stuff. And as a father of a now 14-year-old, yeah, I didn't quite go the traditional road. However, as I began to mature, I wasn't really sure if marriage made sense for my life. And I honestly hadn't had many good examples of successful marriages that made it seem even appealing. It's like people kind of, there tends to be, I guess in my experience, the married people want to be single and the single people want to be married. A lot of times.
That's interesting to say that. All season. I'm saying it. But it's interesting you say that, and I love this point that you're making of as you matured, you realize that you don't know if marriage is for you, because some people tend to think that not wanting to get married is childish. So what is it about maturity that will cause you to see yourself as, I don't know if marriage is for me? What's the maturity factor in that?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know that. Well, to me, I don't think it's a question of an individual's maturity. I think it's just a matter of preference. And then weighing the benefits, the pros versus the cons. Like, there are so many things to think about, especially being married successfully. And having had, like myself, I've had several adult relationships, you know what I'm saying? These are like the real grown-up relationships where you're investing in each other and really working towards that potential long-term status. And I just hadn't seen what I would need to see in order to make that strong of a commitment. You know what I'm saying? I have some things in mind that I would need to see.
I have a question. So what is it? Because I've heard a lot of men say that. But what is the break between, I guess, the commitment to a person that you're dating or in a relationship with, as an adult? What is the heel look like, I guess, for you when it comes to marriage? Like, what is the big difference on the commitment level?
Okay. Let me make sure I understand your question. So what is commitment-wise, what is the difference between being in an adult relationship versus being married? Is that correct? Yeah.
Like, what's the big thing that's just like I can do this in an adult relationship, but to say that I'm married to somebody, like, I can't do that. Like, what's that thing? It's like an invisible thing that everybody kind of talks about, but nobody can really identify. Like, what's the big difference?
That's a good question. That's a very interesting question. I think a couple of things that stand out as big differences are having one home, one place, and not necessarily having, your own individual corners to go back to. Let's see. So with that, the responsibility of maintaining your own things versus our things, I think that can be a little intimidating to some folks. Let's see. I think having to, like, there being no boundary. I'm a person that likes my space. I know that in marriages, you can set things up to fit those individuals. There's no one way of doing it. But as a man that likes my space, that kind of seems, I don't know about that sometimes. Or, I would need a woman that really understands my need for solitude at times, you know what I'm saying? But I'm aware that you can't go into solitude when you have a family and you have to be available for those babies. I get that. So it's like, it's so much to think about. that really, if people thought more into it, I think a lot of people, not as many people would be getting married, or they would be making wiser decisions about who they're getting married to.
I want to know, like, is it and I just hear this from a lot of men, is it the pressure of being completely present for someone other than yourself? And like there is no, you can't run. You got to be like, either you're in it to win it, or it's like there's no escaping it. Is that the part that a lot of, and not that you're speaking for all men, but that kind of hits men in their mind, where they're just like, I don't know if I could be 100% present for this person for the rest of my life and not disappoint them. Is that a thought that goes through men's minds when it comes to marriage?
I think that mature people understand that disappointment is a part of that journey. So I don't think that that's something that keeps people from delving into it. And I think there's pressure on both sides. Like, there are expectations that the man has of a woman, of a wife. There are certain emotional things that I don't really hear many women talking about, that men need, that, you know, help them relax into that idea of that being a safe space to be vulnerable and other things. So it's very layered. It's not just one reason. I think it's a myriad of reasons. And I mean, like, you guys, you ladies, I was listening to a bit of the conversation earlier and talking about how men have these options and, you know, all of that stuff. But really, I think wise men, you know what I'm saying, after you've seen some things, you understand what's going on out in the streets. So it's not necessarily that's not the thing that's keeping folks from getting married. I think it's just I think it's more to it than that. It can't just be the distractions of the street and having all the options. Because as a man with options, I don't even pull the trigger on a fraction of the options I have.
Man with options. We heard you. So I heard this thing that said that marriage should have renewals like driver's license. Like, every 10 years, you should be able to sit down and decide, should we keep at it? Every 10 years or every 5 years, just like your driver's license. We know you've been driving. You know you haven't, killed anybody or had a DUI, or if you have, we forgave you. But there's a process of, if you want to keep your license, you have to go physically and renew it and make that decision to say, I want to keep my driver's license. That's not the same thing with marriage. It's the idea of, once you get it, you got it for life. You're in this to the end. The death do you part. How do you guys feel about the idea of renewing your marriage license?
I think that's a brilliant idea, actually. That's one of the best ideas I've heard on the whole thing, because there's so much that people promise to each other on the front side of that thing. And then once you get in it, people don't produce. And it's a crapshoot. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge gamble. And that fear of the unknown is why a lot of men tend to kind of stay away from it. Because, for instance, let's just say there's a woman that you're courting, and you're trying to move things to the next level, or trying to, build with her. But she tells you, oh, I only do certain things for my husband. And then it's like, okay, well, how does that work? Like, you've never been married. So what practice do you have at doing that? Why would I take you at your word for telling me what you're going to do when I need to see before I jump? And, I can't speak for every man, but I know for me, it's about making a very informed decision about who that person is, like, and going into it very aware of what to expect, not leaving it to chance.
about the season of fall.
Hey, Miss Cam. Hey, Miss Cam.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Well, look, you might not be popular, but my favorite character is Celestial because
one of the quotes that I wrote down in the book that kind of stood out to me was, "Love is the enemy of sound judgment."
She seemed like a very needy woman. And I can't even respect Andre because how do you prey on your friend's wife while he's incarcerated? Like, you know, I just can't get with that. And maybe I got too invested in the book, you know. That's the point.
And if those things change, you want to be able to say, all right, well, this was good. This was fun. But, after 10 years, after maybe 5, I don't know. I might want to Uber for a while.
Right.
I think you're onto something. I think with that, we could also, this, you know, I hope I don't get added for this, but I think people should set weight goals for marriages as well. Like when you come into a relationship, you're at a certain place. Maybe we can allow 15 pounds per child. You know what I'm saying? But let's have a goal. Let's not just leave it to chance.
What's that movie? Why'd I Get Married? When Jill Scott's husband left her?
Yeah. But
why did he leave her though?
Because he was mean. But I do want to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, Justin, and not that I'm being, you know, Miss Sister Girl over here, but I do have to say, what are certain expectations that men show to be husbands before they get to I do? Because a lot of men sit over there and say, I'm not paying for this. I'm not, we this, but we not that. You know? I only do certain things for my wife. A lot of men have a lot of things that they don't do unless they feel you're their wife or if they're really, really serious about you. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, you're dealing with different type of men. Some men, you know, they throw their money at you. We're not talking about them.
Okay.
We're talking about standard men that, you know, want to be in some sort of relationship, whether it's a long-term adult relationship, however it looks. But they also look at it and say, you know, this is a person that I want to be with. So what are some of the standards that men should be bringing to the table in order to show and for a woman to make an informed decision that she wants to be with him?
You say, what are the red flags?
What are the green ones? With the green ones.
The green flag. Okay. Okay. Let's see. And I'm writing over here. I'm a person I like to jot. So as you were speaking, I was like just kind of getting your question. This is a great question. And I want to answer it well. So I didn't want to just, you know what I'm saying, chance it. But I think things that women should look for are maturity, selflessness, a willingness to work, like, and almost someone that doesn't have to be asked to get in there when they see things that need to be done. Of course, you need someone that's responsible, someone that knows how to communicate, someone that listens well, someone that is gainfully employed, someone that has, you know what I'm saying, they've thought about their future and they're clear on their mission in life. Because if they're not clear, how can you be a helpmeet to them? How can you support them if they don't know where they're going. Let's see. Someone who is accountable, someone that is a believer, like someone that believes in God and has that accountability to God first, and is actually, you know what I'm saying, looking to please God in the way that they're moving throughout their life and leading their family. They must be a leader. So these are things that I think, I think that's about 10 things. I don't know. What do you ladies think about that?
I think that's good, but I think, like, how you mentioned the whole weight thing. I think that there are certain stipulations that are put on women, especially in our beauty, especially in how we keep ourselves together. We are expected to work, have children, keep our hair done, keep our nails done, stay under a certain amount of weight, keep our feminine energy, do all these different things, cook, clean, and show all this stuff. You get what I'm saying? I'm talking about, if we're in a relationship or something like that, and you expect me to cook and clean, and I tell you, hey, I don't really like to do that because I'm not your wife. But then you tell me, well, how am I supposed to know what you're gonna do when you become my wife? So then I'm looking and I'm like, well, if I'm what physically should we be looking for?
What's interesting? What
committed?
I like to hear both of you.
Help me, Tia.
No, it's interesting because what I heard him say is like the green flags for a guy is a lot of stuff that involves self-worth. It's like a lot of the attributes of a good man. Is he a leader? Is he good within himself? Is he gainfully employed? A lot of these is not necessarily selfish, but it's very individual oriented. It's about his own personal growth and his own journey through life. And then as he gets to a certain state in his being, then he feels comfortable enough to get a helpmate or a partner in this life. And what I'm hearing from Genesis is, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to be for you versus like what a woman should aspire to be and act like. And her, like, is her green flags just what she's good at doing for him? And is his green flags just what he's good at, period? That's interesting.
But the reason I ask that though is because men view women and kind of sometimes equate that word. I would say not even men, but sometimes in society equate the word based on physical, whereas women, we're taught to value a man based on their inner. Like, that's how if you gain 35 pounds, and things wasn't all the way intact like right at work, when were we supposed to just be, well, he a man, we knew this was going to happen anyways. It's just how I go, But it's like, so the we're on two different platforms on how we're measuring certain values in a relationship. I think there are, of course, inner things, but I was speaking more so towards the physical things. What do men bring that make us say, like, you're husband material? Yes, the inner stuff matters, but let's talk about the outer too.
Okay. Well, clearly, I think men have to show up as husbands to even be viable candidates in the eyes of women. You know what I'm saying? All of those things that I named, it's almost expected that a grown man show up this way and present himself this way. This is expected in society. So, you know what I'm saying? A man should have that willingness he should be generous. He should not mind paying for a first date. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can figure out how that works. You know what I'm saying? Some people like to go Dutch, all that stuff. But I think if a man invites a woman someplace, he should take care of everything. And vice versa, though. So, so it's a matter of, he needs to, how does he, you want to see how he interacts with society. How does he handle folks? How does he handle service workers? Because that's going to give you an idea of the type of leader he's going to be in your household. So it's like a lot of the things that make a man good are kind of intangible. This is just the nature of it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there's the financial piece and all of the preparation for, you know, long-term living, retirement, all this stuff. That's great. And that's wise. Any wise man should be prepared for these things. But that's not what a man's going to be able to show you up front. You know what I'm saying? Like, and his credit score shouldn't be the metric for what makes him, like, you know what I'm saying, good. And Tara, you was talking some stuff. I wanna do we have time to address Genesis question?
But we can continue.
Okay.
We want to
Okay.
continue the conversation.
I understand.
For part 2, chapter 2.
Okay.
Because it was just getting good. So we do want to close it out for this week. We thank you so much, Justin, for your insight and your knowledge in Genesis. We value your opinion, and I myself always got something to say. So thank you both. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Single in the City, where we discuss marriage and what it looks like from a man's perspective and what it looks like for a woman's perspective as a millennial and a single in the city like Atlanta. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Make sure you continue to comment, share your thoughts. Let us know the questions your homegirls got, and your homegirl might even be you. I understand. Play it on her. And we will see you next week.